Hello, everybody, and welcome to the year of 2023 Wisdom Reflection and Review. So, a lot of you have asked what the hell was 2023, and today we want to shed some light on one of the darkest days of the year to help you all understand what is the true divine meaning of wisdom that we have all experienced this 2023 season this year. Again, this is the Niche Nation, and Shanice is ready to rock and rumble. I'm so excited to bring this change from Shanice's niches into the Niche Nation to allow more people to just really see the truth behind what it is we are asking to all unite and to have wisdom, connection, clarity, and all of these beautiful things that we have noticed throughout the years that we've been processing our journeys, our traumas, our experiences. So let's get started and welcome in just some groundedness, because today's topic is going to feel a lot and just so much maybe aha moments or holy cow, I didn't see that in that light. So just please know, if you need to stretch, take a break, do anything in those levels, let your body and self know to do that, because we welcomed in this year of numerology 7. And this was a huge year of just knowing there was so much to discover, because what my belief system is that we go through these journeys and these cycles to keep deepening our essence, our words, our belief, our understanding, our groundedness in this life. And that's why we always say that either kids are just the innocent wisdom and elders are the weathered wisdom. And we find a lot on this topic of wisdom because this has been something that is almost as worthy, if not more, than the precious metals. And our highest paying jobs always balance out what you bring to the table. And wisdom is a huge element of it, because without wisdom, you do not have fundamental experiences to give you knowledge, to gain you that growth, to then extensively expand your strengths, to then come into wisdom. And there's a lot more to the steps on that, but in that awareness, to gather all of those, you must go through phases and stages. And that is what we have witnessed in 2023, was a whole lot of phases, stages, and roller coasters. So we really ask that you take some time before the I guess the so-called year end. If you do not follow the seasonal year ends, Halloween is our typical year end. So we have already been in our new year, technically, since Halloween. But for those who are just learning what these stages and what these all mean, on how our bodies actually can properly reflect our years and our seasons, this is important that you maybe don't put so much emphasis on January 1st as your year end, because as farmers, as gatherers, as hunters, as fishers, we are people of gathering before your year ends. So fall time is where you have done the work that you needed to get done. The why we say it's the thinnest in the veil is because this is where you need to know if you've done enough, or you have a couple more weeks to finally wrap up what you need before, usually in Canada here, we have major snow and frost, and we freeze and lose all of our vital vegetables or foraging, or animals are then going into our rut season for hunting. So there's a lot that we have to do in that time to gather and then feast and then get ready for the hibernation. So the wisdom out of this is you have to understand, stop putting everything last minute. This has been a huge theme for a lot of people in 2023 because what we think we have time for is now ending. We have walked through so many different timelines currently that this has now allowed you to realize what you need, what you don't need, what is a necessity, and what is a luxury. So, the more that you constantly are trying to figure out what this is moving forward, you're going to have a lot of introspection to say, okay, what did we actually need to gather out of this? Because the wisdom that you get after you have figured out what's really important and what's not, you will find out there's so much more happening with friendships, family, work, education systems, healthcare systems, our government. All of these different things are starting to really make you ask what is important. So, when we are asking those questions, you have to understand that you can't be doing this last minute. Obviously, this is going to be very thought provoking for you all. So, this is going to feel like, oh my God, Shanice, why didn't you say this sooner? Why didn't this come out sooner? You have to understand, like all wisdom, it takes time. It takes time to curate more of it's like fermenting. The more it's fermented, there's a fine line of the best probiotics to add into your systems. It's really good for your gut, or it turns into poison. So that is how I look at wisdom, because when we find a lot of people that have wisdom, because trust us, you have seen throughout these years, and I'm going to hold this gold nugget phrase for a little bit longer on what has really come forward, is you've seen a world expand into so much knowledge right now that this hasn't been something cool or allowed or something able to be talked about. And now every Tom, Dick, and Harry is talking about these themes of healing, these chakras or shaktis or chakras, right? Like there's so many things that you're starting to hear. And that is because that is ripples, that is vibration. When you start to see that there's something going around in your systems. As a farmer, we watched what was going on. If you didn't catch something that was, not feeling very good, or, just it wasn't being themselves, that's fine to kinda watch it and maybe leave it, but sometimes you needed to work on that detail right away, and that is what we are starting to learn out of 2023. What things you needed to nip it in the butt right away versus things that you had to just let it curate until it did show its true colors. And that is the joys of learning. It takes that experience, and why we become wise old owls eventually is that you start to see what it is truthfully at that time. And you start to train your gut knowings, your gut reactions, your sacral and solar decision makings. Those are so many of these different topics that a lot of people have talked about, is like, oh, you know what? I really am trusting my gut now. I have learned through this year, I'm going to listen to when I get those signs. Or if there's people like myself that need at least a minimum of 24 hours, if not multiple days or even years, to finally process out what that discussion needs to look like, then once you make a solid decision, there's no turning back. So knowing that time has been a huge theme this year. And we had some conversations about this last night, about how people just want things now. And we have become very greedy because we've heard these ripples, because now we're welcome to have these types of conversations out in public, that a lot of people are like, well, this should be working now. It should be happening now. It should be. And time is the truest test. And we have all heard so many wisdom sayings about what time really is and what it does and what it holds and what its property is. But the more that you find yourself trying to fight against time, the more that you try and claim more time or trying to speed up time, that is something that you have to pay the piper if you are trying to fast track your success or renewal or expansion in this world. And knowing that the more that you suffocate what might need time, for all those bakers out there that needs more time of proofing and needs more time of just surrounding its trueness, to work out the chemicals, to work out the compounds, to make sure it rises and is the fluffiest and softest and connected, you know, project or emotion or food. We really struggle and sacrifice quality. And that has been another theme this year. And don't worry if you're jotting notes and feeling like, Shanice, I don't know what all these themes are right now. I will go through it at the end to make sure that you guys really sit with this. I just want you to just process and see what you're feeling as we go through it. So, quality versus quantity. This has been one of the biggest themes this year, is that you will start to realize who really is in your court. This is what I'm talking about: family, friends, teachers, service workers, colleagues, um, representation in politics or in boards or in all kinds of different things. So, the more that you constantly are seeking to have more connections or experiences because we have been suffocated for 3 years, you have to understand that there is also a balance. You can have all the friends in the world, you can have all the education and the teachings, but if you don't start to work with them and start to have the knowledge that was gifted and start to actually interact that into your life and start having actual experiences with them, you're not going to understand what they're truly trying to say to you and truly trying to navigate, because everybody has wisdom. But that wisdom may come from pain, it might come from suffering, it may come from the purest form of love, or it may come from absolute fucking chaos. So you need to realize that this isn't something you have to go and deal with or have quantity of it, because as soon as you sometimes see the version of somebody at that moment in time, we're not asking and talking about judgment. You are asking yourself, what is the quality of this connection at this moment in time? And do you need to continue to have more quantity of this, or do you need to have better quality of this? Sometimes you need a one and done, and that is it. We talk about oracle wisdom all the time. It is somebody that you would meet randomly and will never have that experience again from that person, because that was meant for a one and done experience. So much of that is a nectar, it is a shot, it is a hallelujah. It's a prayer that somebody comes into your space and finally just gives you the golden nugget you've been seeking, praying, or begging, or praying on. That you have allowed yourself to really come back and understand that is exactly what I needed to hear. But are you wanting more and more and more? Is greed starting to become very prevalent in your space, that you just want to take more on and need more and ask for more? There's so many of those different layers that you need to understand. We can't all eat rich cake 24/7. There is times of celebration when that richness really comes in and that purity and that quality is there. But if we're always trying to just feed ourselves with quantity, it's like I've talked about in my post, and I can post it down below here, about living life by the buffet theme. Is you can have all the choices in the world. You can load your plates up 97 times and roll out of a place like that. Or you can be picky and choosy. You can be the one that just picks its regulars and its go-to things. That is the gift of life, that we have this entire buffet of learning experiences, high quality, low qualities, large quantity, minimal quantities. And that is where we have seen through COVID, it has expanded some extensive quality of connections through platforms like this. Or there is also this theme of um, there's so much that's going on these platforms, but the quality and how it's actually being presented or honored has been just very disrespectful or not very tasteful. So you're starting to see so much in everybody's spaces that 2023 was really to hyper activate everything around you. So you start to realize, what are you actually going to do, human? What are you actually going to be, when we have maybe forgotten what our actual existence and mission was, because we laugh that kids have the simple, purest wisdom? And a lot has been coming up about this topic, about you're no longer the same person. You're no longer who I once was. There's been a lot of things that have been disassociating somebody of themselves. I am all for you understanding how to make more choices, how to have more experiences, how to have more love, more trust, more growth, more of these stepping stones of experiences in life. But what came to me this year very freaking deeply was, there's been so much running away from authentic selves. And people are like, "Well, Shanice, I'm divorced. I'm happier than I've ever been. Shanice, I am 18 now. I no longer need to be that person who cares about my friends or my job. Shanice, I have left that job and I'm so much happier and better, and I feel alive again. I feel like a man. I feel like a father. I feel like all these feel like things that have been coming up to ourselves." And trust me, we all go through metamorphosis. We all go through our caterpillar to our beautiful butterfly stages. But what has been happening in this cycle, and the wisdom that has come forward in this, watching this for eons of years now, and now feeling like I have put a key into a lock and have unlocked something very important about this, is you are not leaving and changing yourselves. You are actually taking accountability and ownership of who you authentically were in the beginning of time. Our souls are the purest form when we come into this earth. And this is where you have now understood why you have those gifts, why you are connected this way, because now you have walked through everybody else's closets, tried on their jackets, their clothes, their hats, walked in other people's shoes, and now you're starting to realize all the things within self that was pure and is pure and is coming into connection with that. That you could become grounded with the essence of who you authentically are. And I hope you just kind of let that sit in, because that even gets my emotions rolling in this, because there is so much that we do change. We do change our taste buds. We do change our hair, our makeups, our clothes, our sneakers, our jobs. Yes, we change a lot of things around us and of us, but who we are, your essence has been suffocated or maybe masked or sheepskinned over to protect you. What our parents put on us, our grandparents, our communities, our educations. So you think that this is what you need to know and do and be. But then eventually you get into a point of realizing that you had a direction. You've had a compass, a map of what you're really going to do and be in this lifetime. And so what happens is you become free because you let go of that expectation of the ex. You've let go of the expectation of your parents and friends and jobs and money and cars and titles and all these things. You've let go of things that were not yours to take on because we've created a society of people pleasers. We've created a society of people not telling the truth. How many of you look back at kids' Christmas concerts or are at one recently and you see the kid picking its nose or scared or having the best time of their life because they are in their element? We want everybody to look the same so it's constant, but then giggle and kind of like the other messy versions of the little kid experiences. But then when you come to your grade 12 Christmas concert and everybody must be harmonic, um, or I mean, harmonious angels singing in perfect pitch and tones because they've practiced for eons and days, and everybody just cries and weeps for the pureness of that. By the end of that, you've lost maybe 9, 10, or 100% of people because they might not be actually performing the way that they would do it naturally because they love structure, they love congruency. We all are a whole humanity, an animalistic way of patterns and synchronicities and logical things to exist so that we can actually put two and two together and not be worried and have questions by the end of it. So we've created all of these different things moving forward to have so much just flockness. It's putting everything together, hurting us all together. And yes, united nations, connections, collective is important. But we are starting to have a spiritual and mental freaking warfare on what is important and what is connected. And that is becoming so wounded currently that you are starting to see kids not give a shit. You are starting to see parents turn into kids and kids turning into parents. We've seen that through all generations. But there's almost this thing of kids starting to rebel and they are just like, we ain't gonna do it. That's not giving me dopamine or serotonin or oxytocin or happiness in a sense that I just like kind of feel it in my soul. There's so much choice and option and connections now that they don't have those stages to just grow and experience what was important to self. So I would really like everybody to take that time and really maybe back up this recording and go back and just re-listen to what I'm saying about you have not changed. You have now taken off all the layers and the programming and the manipulations and the egos and masks and illusions of self that you had to be for everybody else because we just keep piling it in the backpack. It's like if any of you have moved out of your houses, it's just shit you've collected along the way and was like, "Oh right, I was going to get rid of that," or "Oh, auntie Auntie's gift, we didn't give it to her last 3 Christmases ago because I couldn't find it." So, there's all these things that we're carrying around, and as a kid, you're just, like, excited, you're motivated, you wanna help, you wanna do, you wanna experience, you wanna feel life, you wanna feel the wind blow through your eyelashes and your ears and have fun, but that's what happens, is it starts to change and morph. And we come back to this essence of just wanting to have fun, being and doing the things that are important to us. So, understanding that you haven't changed, you have come back to your true essence. And I think that's going to help people, because the more that we say that, oh, you're completely different and I can't recognize you anymore, that's false, because then you're just chasing away something that truly exists in you. Or you've never shown it to other people, and you just have now taken accountability to really act and be and stand in the authority and the mission you've been asked to. And so you have to educate people on who you truly are if they've never seen this version of you or have never experienced this with you, because you have a responsibility now. And so that comes back into this next theme of wisdom, is the responsibility of being a witness and understanding that when you come into this journey, you are meant to see and experience all things in life. As much as you want to hide it, as much as culture and banding and um, blocking and restricting can do, the human soul begs to see everything. And that is a hard pill to swallow for parents or partners or sometimes even children, because you are asked to do and experience these things so you then have the tailored wisdom in the end of it to help those that we as a society are starting to learn the term prevention versus just commission. But there is so much that fear gets involved with prevention that we're forgetting how to properly educate. And that brings up a topic so deeply that has resonated not only in my personal four walls, but also just has been a huge roller coaster in so many people's lives, that you're starting to see so many more documentaries. You're starting to see so much more news, awareness, all these different things about, look at that person really didn't know what they were doing. They were just trying to feed something in themselves that wasn't able to be fulfilled by their families or their own small communities or the rejections of things that have happened in their life. And now we have created wounded, wise owls. And this theme has been excruciating to watch, because growing up as a kid, that is what I've witnessed my entire life. Watching adults, government, groups, education, and so many of our systems just be wise, have knowing, but the woundedness and the restrictions of doing something for the better or the asked, called highest good has been muddled on what people think they need to do, what they have to be, what is right, what is the way. And you have seen now documentaries of, and this isn't new, this is stuff of cults. This is stuff of, oh, this is the politician that was just being paid out by this force or this agency. This education system of, what we're feeding our children and what we're pumping into their brains. Then it comes into the teachers that we have in our circles and our classes and our guidance and our therapists and all of these things that just keep coming through, these things that we think people should be truly wise and have been granted badges, statures, calls, names, all these different things. And then you come into a circle of where they shine. and they shine so deeply that they then come back with this victimness to then splatter what has been not done because there should have been more time given, more energy put in, or just actual awareness of words of saying, no, this is not the current time. Because our society is warped everybody to say, if it's not happening by this deadline, we literally just went to a um, council meeting for our local town to talk about something that was very huge that the community is going to be processing. And so many people are just expecting this time to just take away the problem while they just forgot that the last 3 times that this was announced, the 4th time it's being moved through because everybody just wanted more time. It's the same examples that literally we have went through just even personally if you host retreats or have a family mediation or work through a client's system, there's sometimes not the right time for that person's reading and they beg and they fuss and they push to have that done because they just think that that's what's going to save them. They think that that's what's the right time. And when they have that time to have introspection or to have things different, you all understand after the fact, the 2020 view and vision, that this is where you can't keep expecting miracles to be on time. You can't keep expecting that your teachers have all the answers because they think they're showing up on time, but it was absolutely the most devastating experience because you didn't have all the tools in front of you to be ready or to have a course and not have anybody on site with first aid because we're just going to start chopping things up. You need to have sometimes more time to incubate these things. And what's happened is these wise, wounded owls that we keep putting into leadership or putting on a pedestal or having everybody think that this is all that we should be working and dealing with. Yes, there's nuggets or things in the beginning that was exponentially growth, the importance, everything about it was so important to know. And that is what maybe honored and anchored you in to be believing that this is everything that you needed it to be. But then sometimes these relationships don't work out. That's why we break up. That's why we disconnect because everybody has a season. Everybody has something in that point and that moment of your life that's super crucial, but that's why the relationship maybe ends at 3 years, 4 years, 3 months, 2 days, one night stands. These are experiences that as much as you wanna keep yearning and leaning and begging to have this really be everything you wanted it to be, you're so sabotaging yourself and not taking your own responsibilities to know, hey, you know what? I don't feel right about this topic. Can we have a good discussion? Can we take some time and really process out what's going on here? Because the more we put a circus Olay in every aspect of our life, you're not going to have the groundedness or the time to have that introspection until way after. And that's what so many of you have seen about this year of 2023 is there was so much that happened so quickly, but yet so slowly that it was the weirdest quicksand. Somebody explained it this way was I just froze. I didn't know that this was what was happening, or I just thought they knew what they were doing. I thought they are our elders, or they are our teachers, or they are our partners. I thought this was just gonna be okay, and it's not okay. But there's no good and bad. There's just experiences so that you can come back into that growth and come into that introspection to have that strength to then come into this wisdom and renew what might be actually missing or lost. Because we are here of seven generations prior and seven generations after to stand as the spokesperson, the guide, the light, the eternal flame of what has been asked about this lineage. And this is of all cultures and all nations. We are here as a nation. And that is another theme that came up with 2023 was the segregation and manipulation to have total deprivation of a nation. What you are seeing now, and this is my golden nugget phrase that I've been saving, is that it 10 years ago, just 10 years ago, and I would even say closer to maybe even 5 years ago, it was not cool to be a healer. It was not cool to talk about herbs or missions or souls or star seeds. It was not cool to talk about how your culture has history. It wasn't cool to be indigenous. All of this stuff now is coming out because there is an asking of shitty behaviors and actions from the past to be reconciled about who you are. And I mean Indigenous in all ways. We have seen the Black Lives Matter. We have seen the Ukraine wars. We have seen the residential schools that so many communities have known about. And now we are just pulling out of the hat what's going to distract our society and our population for a bit more time to actually know what is not going to be cool here soon of being stewards and providers and gatherers and protectors of the one and only earth. This isn't something, as I have said, and if this is new to you, meeting me and hearing my philosophies and thoughts and beliefs, is that I grew up as a redneck farm kid. I didn't fall off no gypsy wagon. And to realize that there's so much destruction that people will do just anything for the gram or anything for the hashtags now. There was so much that has missed in the societal ask and our own commandment of rights, that there is generations that will not understand what has been fought for. And I'm not asking for everybody to go start picking up pitchforks and start beating on each other because this is what it is. That's what they want you to do, because now we're going into conferences and places that are saying, oh, this is culture appropriation. This is disrespectful. This is that. Ukrainians, Germans, Russians, Asians, Swedish, Norway, like all of these Africans were talking about Chilean and Peruvian teachings and cultures and medicines and watching different documentaries about how actual herbs and the world countries are collected by the locals and then marketed in such a way that people are forgetting how to go and travel and get to the source and the ceremony. That is what all this exploration of any human being was seeking. Moving around like ants on this planet to figure out what's here, what's there, taste this, take that, don't take that. It's a learned experiment to experience, to have knowledge. That's the root of all of these things. And that equation comes with pain plus the experience to equal wisdom. And that is where we all have to take in huge accountability of what it is we are all asking to connect with, what we are all asked as our souls to come back onto this planet and say, I needed you to stand up and help the things that can't. speak, or the people that can't do that change. That is why we have to create a nation. We have to help doing the things that are morally in our compasses being asked for us. Not all of us are going to fully be in the same alignment, but there has to be a core foundation of what we are doing to bring the betterness of our souls and our world back into service for the bigger cause. And so what's happening is there's so much greed that is going on with our societies that even us stewarding this lodge, there has been so much jealousy and anger and resentment and want and need and taking that has happened because we as human beings have not remembered our manners, have not connected. Yes, we need to keep educating. And yes, we have known that this is something in a leadership that we have to do that equal teaching and balance and keep helping to make sure that this is a staple and a waypoint so that we anchor in more of these just ethnic teachings and culture practices of being a human being again. And that is where we are seeing so many people flocking to find what is this new way you're doing. It's not new. This is being in a place of respect and how you are being conducting yourselves and how your footprints. It's like knowing who you are, living upstairs or living in the basement. How big are your footsteps upstairs? Do you have consideration for everything around you? Do you just blast the music, use all the hot water, just take up your space because you have that space and that person has their space down there and they should focus on themselves? But if you are causing so much chaos in your own spaces, how can anybody else function in that? You need to take accountability for your reactions, your emotions, your askings, your wants, your needs. You can't keep pushing this to everybody else and expecting them to be freaking mind readers. This is where you must come back and stop being wounded and stop taking this entitlement just because you have experienced things and have wisdom but have healthy education, have healthy morals and support systems to create that education to be grounded. Don't bring extra chaos to rein in the monkeys. And this has been our next topic is that when you isolate, you must have more boundaries on how you need to come back to self and knowing how to really listen to yourselves. Because the more that you understand the wisdom and that connection, you will see more of your true self. And that's a tricky fine line with it, but have the boundaries to know what you can express. And we tell people, have temper tantrums, move through that energy, work through that emotion, work through that age so that you can reconnect to the actual motherboard, the actual connection that you were sourced with from the start. There's a huge difference also on understanding how to accept wisdom that is paid for or wisdom that is worked through. The difference, what I'm talking about is yes, you can pay all kinds of people. You can honor gifts. You can do these different practices, go work with somebody for a day or for free and have that paid experience to have that wisdom so that it's hands-on and it's connected, right? Art classes, working through, different sewing, ribbon skirts or moccasins, working through basket weavings, working through um, painting Posankas and working through the Russian dolls, or with the um, water paintings of the Asian cultures. Like, there's so many different things that you can journey through, but understanding that, yes, you can pay for this wisdom, but you also have to bring a bit of offering or honoring or something more than just money. Because we all know that this is frustrating about, well, I can't afford this course, or I can't afford that class, or I can't afford that experience. We understand that. But then you must come and do other things. There's other ways to experience and learn these wisdoms, but you have to be willing to do the work for the wisdom. And working for wisdom and paying for wisdom are two very different concepts. And that is why you will see elders ask for gifts. You'll see people just beg for millions of dollars, thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars to be a part of these different practices. But because there's been work involved to get that wisdom, so you have to ask your soul, what's important to you? Are you okay paying for this wisdom to get the boosted version of it and have the quickness of it, or do you have to just like go and start watching what that other person is doing, ask for some help, and also work along them, beside them, right? Ask to be connected, have dinner with them, do things that human beings used to do back in the day to just learn things. So, coming back into wisdom, is it having to be worked for or paid for? There's always work that must be involved to gain wisdom, but knowing what is that balance going to look like for you and what's in your soul contract, what's important for that. You must also ground yourself into knowing that when you are going through those teachings with those wounded wise owls or victimized people and friends and connections, you must offer that just understanding and love, because it's like leading a horse to water and trying to make them drink. It doesn't always end up pretty. You might be the one ass in the water trough instead of the horse's nose. You might be drug, the horse might break the lead. There's so many different ways that can happen. Or it could just like sit there and maybe it's just not thirsty. You can't keep pressuring into these things and saying, you need to teach me more. You need to have more advice. You need to have more time for me. If that person is done and they are burnt out and that is it, you must understand we all outgrow our parents, our teachers, our relationships, our communities, and our settings. So when you grow up and have that connection to knowing that this is something that you see and have more things to ask and connect and do, you have to give respect on just saying thank you. I really do respect and appreciate. Maybe cook them a meal, have the last visit, do those last connections, and say, I do feel that at this time, I just need to choose the path of where I feel I'm being called or led to next. And if you want to keep that person because that teacher or person is just tired and they're just needing time to process, then that's totally fine. But sometimes you just can't go back. Sometimes you're not going to have the abilities to have that person in your life forever. So then you have to disconnect and allow that person's teachings to be acknowledged and understood. But when you are starting to feel pressured, angry, resentful, pissed off, and you're seeing all these things keep muddling the waters between what's wisdom and then what's ego, you must then break that off, because then there's this ownership that starts to come in, and it's not healthy at the end for any of the relationships moving forward. So, having that boundary of knowing when you've outgrown a situation at hand and having respect and love for it and moving on. Forgive yourself if you've maybe stayed too long or processed things this way unhealthily. and allow yourself to move on. That is where you must have time to integrate and use those tools. Maybe that's where universe has a beautiful way of having these synchronistic relationships and situations happen, because you can't be the one just always pushing all of this knowledge and squeezing it out of all of these people, because they might just be done and they are frustrated. So having respect and balance for when things have been outgrown. The biggest thing when you are processing all of this is understanding that there's no more excuses. If you want results, you want progress, you want plans, you want payment, you want production, you must be willing to do the work. And that work is not all pretty, ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls. This is sometimes things that you have to rip down to your absolute core to understand, how do I actually function, or what is my actual voice or authenticity moving forward. And that is where you will need this in 2024 extensively. Because if you do not have the abilities to understand what you are going to be working for in this next cycle, 2023 was to show you what cycles will be very prevalent if you do not deal with them in 2024. Because in 2024, we are in the numerology of 8. And 8 is the infinity, the abundance, the success, the connections. The Lion's Gate of next year is going to be insane, and I'll save that for our next video. But remember, you will be in a cycle and in a pattern. If you do not understand what 2023's wisdom was giving you, you will have to hop on this ride and go all the way through it for another 365 days. So know that this year was asking for you to do the work, and knowing that, yes, okay, you understand what work needs to be done, but you need to be very due diligent on your homework. As you are learning your honesty, you will have to learn how to deliver those words and those actions. And when you have witnessed so much in your life and you have been so frustrated, and now you're becoming the jury at certain situations, that is somewheres where you have to bring in the balance of how will you deliver your message. Because the delivery of a message, it can be, as we all might have taken, speech and working on how do we have our um, voice heard, presentations where you're just like, uh-huh, yeah, this is what we need to be doing to move forward in 2023, and having the abilities to, right? So how confident are you going to feel if you're hearing somebody who might have the best freaking knowledge and wisdom and connection to this absolute problem we've been having, but they're just hiding behind everything that they have to say? Because sometimes when you witness something so extreme, and knowing how expansive your witnessing and now your verdict is as a witness, you will have to understand that there's so much more that you're going to have to balance out to know how to help deliver that. And that is why we are here to help you, because that is going to be a huge platform in 2024 where you're going to see a bunch of microphones everywhere if you haven't seen them already this year. And one other thing I would like to leave you guys with, and then I will go through all the main points of what 2023 is. And then we will just, if you guys have questions, please start posting them on the side in the live chats, and love to hear kind of your guys' stories or questions you might have. What maybe wisdom have you experienced this year? And love to dive into this deeper with you all with the coming up videos soon at the year end. So we will have a Q&A session for everybody to be like, okay, what do we need to get through in this next year? But my final little takeaway that I want you all to really maybe have a written out poster or a little saying, or put this in the back of your phone or tattoo it on your ass, whatever's going to make you remember this. But this came to me last night after just reflecting of what the hell happened in 2023. And it is so much like sitting around a kitchen table and you have a family member who loves riddles, and you are younger and you're like listening to all these adults talk and you're looking up, and this family member nudges you and says, "Hey, I have a riddle for you." And you're like, "Oh," but you're so intrigued because you always laugh or you always think about things after that comment of the final punchline. And life is like a riddle. It is so freaking confusing when you're trying to intently listen to it and figure it out and have like the Da Vinci Code or Rain Man in your head trying to figure out where is this leading to next. And you're sitting there and they're just like smirking or kind of egging you on, and you're just like, yeah, yeah, and you're just trying to squeeze out something so profound because you know it's so intense, but yet maybe it's this or maybe it's that, and then you're just like, it's bats, and then you're like, why did I say that? And then they're laughing and they're like, actually no, it was just two. And you're so frustrated because how did that number two come out of that riddle, because that wasn't at all in it. And then so when they teach you what was being said, and to help you really dissect what a riddle is, that's life. It's not as complicated or a huge saying out of it. Sometimes it's just a single phrase. It's a number, it's an animal, it's a happiness is the key to life. So know that when you finally get to know the answer to a riddle and you laugh and become so freaking pissed off because you're like, that literally was the answer out of that after all that I've went through, after all that I've spent and tried to figure out and curate an equation out of this to get the next NASA's physics result and connection to the world's answer, and it was two. you know Come back to that and really ground into what did that just show you? What do riddles in your life show you? Because it's not that complicated. People make it so much extra just because they might feel needed or wanted, or in my sense, why I offer and talk in riddles, everybody says, my entire life, is because I want you to just think. Think about the bigger things. What is your thought actually wanting to say about this? What does your soul yearn to just finally break out and say, Shanice, I don't know. Fuck you. I didn't feel that, blah, blah, blah. And then you start to process it and you're like, no, actually, I've been feeling that my whole entire life. So have that balance to know what really structures you into that riddle of life, because it's wisdom and it's not as complicated as we make life out to be. So find out the riddles and make it simple. So if you've got your pen and papers, we're going to take this last 2 minutes to wind up what an entire year, which is crazy to think we have done it in an hour, to express to you what is the wisdom of 2023. So your takeaway points for today are: wisdom is honored, not taken. So understand what is the karma if you do steal or take wisdom. What will you have to pay back if you do take things for granted? Number 2, society makes no room for truth. So where will you start making room? Number 3, what is real wisdom versus paid wisdom? What will you do to make it work? Number 4, victim wise owls, adults that are wounded or people that expect you or others to do the hard work without grounding, a guidance, or having their work done first. Number 5, pain plus isolation equals experience. Experience plus time equals wisdom. Number 6, no more excuses. Number 7, time. Slow down, allow time, do not warp time, and enjoy time. Respect time. Number 9 is you don't have to do anything, but don't complain. Number 10, you will always outgrow teachers, parents, partners, and friends. Do it with love and respect to continue along your way. Number 11, it does not mean it's done once you get it. Once you understand it, it ain't over, sweetheart. We are here till our graduation date, and that is the time that we are called home. Number 12, it's a cycle. No one has a one-stop shop. You must do the work. Number 13, hiding the West. For those that have journeyed in teachings of medicine wheels or journeys of their own teachings of mythologies or patterns of what we fear in our shadow work, these are things that we have really shut down our West and not understanding that we must have these experiences to show us when we're high in our chair and warriors and strong and what our purpose is. And then we must go to the night of ourselves, the shadows, the darkness, the sadness. And that is where you must stand and face those fears and understand that it's only a reflection of who you were in the East, what you were envisioning to have moving forward. Then that brings you into that direction of guidance and that renewal and that purification so that your wisdom is understood and centered and grounded, not just manipulated by egos and fear. Number 14, do the work. Number 15, be honest as a witness, because that is the job of the jury at the end to give the truth and the verdict. Number 16, stop waiting for all the time of others to do it or show up for you, but be patient in all ways and wait for it in the healthiest way. Know when it is time and to be balanced, and also know when there's too much time being spent and when to move on. And our number 16 is life is a fucking riddle, but we are here all laughing at the end of it when we realize how simple the answer was all along and what was really the root to the joke was how much you had to think and how simple it was in the end. And number 17, practice is the key. Without you experiencing and processing it, you will not have the abilities to understand it and ground it. So, with that being said, if any of you have more questions or things that you would like to discuss, this has been a holy cow year, and thank you so much for everybody who's joined in on the live and those who are on replay. And we are just super excited to move forward because we have a beautiful year coming up in 2024. but you need to really bring in some cue cards to help you guide and maybe recognize and help you remember what these last years and 365 days were about so that you can have that balance moving forward in these new cycles. And there's so much beauty that we are going to experience. But again, the more that you want to suffocate in the hard riddles and try and figure out the answers, sometimes just allow yourselves to just think simply. So, thank you all for watching this live for our review of the Wisdom Year of 2023. And again, I am so honored and thankful for you all being a part of this expanded journey and what I truly felt like I was here to come and do. So thank you all for being a part of the Niche Nation. And I am working on some big things to help guide and work with you all and to just be here to support you all. If you're needing a time to get away and feel just connected from yourself, you can absolutely come and experience a stay with us at Rock Lake Earth Lodge, north of Hinton in Alberta, Canada. And we are loving to share this with you guys because we've had so many profound visits and stay in heals that so many people are really starting to love and know that there's an anchored space to disconnect to reconnect. So, thanks again, everybody, for listening and being a part of this journey since 2015. We are going to be almost 10 years old of being public to the world, but this has been 30 years in the making, and we have so much for you in store in 2024 with some books and cards and extra experiences, summits, journeys, and intensives and workshops moving forward. So please keep us posted and locked in your guys's feeds and subscribe. Please share this with others that you would like to see or need the guidance. Just let them journey with the Niche Nation .com, and it is change for change. So $1.11 is going to be that change for your change. Thanks again, everybody. Thanks for all the views and love. And we're just learning this new platform. So bear with me on the YouTube channels, and we're excited for more adventures to come. Take care, everybody. Bye.